This week we're going to focus on what was the problems faced by the Weimar Republic. So the Weimar government, we found out last week, was the government they put in place after the war. But we've seen there was 4 big problems they had to fight against. Stab in the back myth, the Treaty of Versailles, the hyperinflation and political violence. So we are going to look at the Treaty of Versailles and hyperinflation today. In 1918, the war ended, and the Allied forces and those in charge of the Allied governments have to come up with what should happen next. How should Germany be punished? How can we maintain peace? So they've held a big meeting to discuss this, and this was led by the leaders of Britain, the USA and France. And eventually they came up with the Treaty of Versailles. Now the Treaty of Versailles put different conditions over the German people, but it took a while for them to decide on what to do. So this is what each government wanted, and then what they finally decided on. The debate took place in the Palace of Versailles in France, and this is why it's known as the Treaty of Versailles. It's just named after the palace which they made it in. Now the UK, they had lost a lot of men during the war, but their country in Britain wasn't that affected. There wasn't a lot of German bombs. The actual infrastructure in Britain was still fine. So the British government wanted Germany punished, but not so that they could not recover. They didn't want it to be too bad. But people in Britain themselves wanted the British government to give Germany a severe punishment. France was different. France wanted Germany punished severely, as they had suffered the most during the war. They wanted Germany to pay major reparations, compensation money that Germany was forced to pay so that other countries could build back up after the war. They wanted Germany crushed so that they could not threaten France again, so they could not invade France again. The USA, however, they were a lot more lenient. They hadn't suffered that many casualties in the war. They joined the war late, and they wanted Germany to be treated fairly so that she could recover and so that she didn't feel like she had to fight back against what was happening to her. So what did they actually decide on? Well, the things they decided on can be split down into 4 categories. The first one is money. Germany had to pay £6.6 billion to the Allied countries for damages caused during the war. Military. The army was cut to 100,000 men. Germany's navy was cut to only 6 warships. She was not allowed tanks or aircrafts. Any of her weapons of war were made to be melted down. She wasn't allowed to have conscription, submarines, an air force, tanks, and she was no longer allowed to make any alliances with Austria. War guilt. Germany was forced to accept the responsibility for causing all the deaths and damages done during the war. And land. Germany was forced to give land back to Belgium, France, Denmark and Poland. Also, all her German colonies in places like Africa were given away, mainly to Britain. And Germany was cut in half by a piece of land given to Poland. This now meant that some people in Germany lived on one side of Poland and others lived on another side of Poland. So full towns and families could be split up by this area.